Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys Podcast. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm good. Do you want to tell the listeners about the very posh, modern, and nice airport you visited yesterday?
Worst experience of my life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have something to say. This message goes out to American Airlines. If you're not American Airlines, keep scrolling. You have the worst. You have the worst.
It's
awful.
awful.
You have the worst airplane. What do you call airplanes? What are they? No, I'm used to saying carriers for insurance, but I guess. I guess that's a
airline.
Airline. You have the worst airline in the world. I guarantee you, Bradley, there are military members in Kosovo that fly on CH-46 Sea Stallions like I did, where I would be in the back end lifting off of an aircraft carrier at 2 o'clock in the morning to go somewhere I wasn't supposed to be going. And I would look up. I would look up into the where the two pilots are sitting in the amber glow of the instrumentation panel, and both of them are wearing ANPVS 7 Bravo night vision goggles. And I would be in the back of this CH-46 Sea Stallion going onto somebody's land that I wasn't supposed to be on in a country that I might not even supposed to be in. And it was a better ride than American Airlines flying from Huntsville to Charlotte yesterday. That's how bad it was. And then after I got off the plane and had to borrow the guy's barf bag, because I had to put my mouth in the barf bag for the last 15 minutes.
No, that bad.
That bad.
Wow.
Sweat, ring around. I wish I'd taken a picture. Ring around my whole T-shirt. And I'm sweating down onto my pants, so the thigh part of my pants has got sweat all over it. We get on the ground, and I finally figured out where Oscar the Grouch lives.
Where is that, Scott?
Charlotte Airport.
It is awful.
It is the Charlotte, North Carolina Airport. Now, remember, guys, Charlotte is a huge hub for the banking industry, like all the big banks. Listen, Charlotte, listen to me. You should be embarrassed to have an airport that looks like let me tell you what it looks like. And if you took an abandoned hospital and then that abandoned hospital had a baby with an abandoned skating rink, that is the Charlotte Airport. It is an absolute embarrassment of an airport.
There are certain parts of it that are really bad.
Horrible. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now that this is like international banking hub, and you go to their airport and it looks like the abandoned Hamilton, Alabama skating rink? Are you kidding me right now? Anyway.
Well, Atlanta's awful, but Atlanta is at least nice. It's awful because it's so busy.
Can I offer a refreshing idea?
Sure.
Why doesn't Delta lean on the city of Atlanta to create a Delta airport? Just a separate, go over 5 miles from Hartsfield, Atlanta, buy 180 tract acre, 200 acres of land, and build a Delta airport.
Yeah. What's the best airport you've ever been in?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Really? Because it's home?
Yeah. No, it's just super nice. It's very, very easy to get. I like these little Tulsa, Oklahoma's a great one. Those little international airports that are borderline or regional, but they're so easy to move around. And you come in off the plane, and there's only like 5-10 gates, and it's easy to get out. It's easy to get in. There's no line. I love those, but they've got a few little shops.
Tampa Airport.
Tampa.
Tampa's a good airport.
Mine is either Nashville or Austin, Texas. Probably Nashville would probably get the nod.
Nashville's good.
Awesome.
Nashville's good. Nashville's
The food,
really good.
It's the food.
Well, they have bands and everything there, there too at the airport.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'd just about rather go have open heart surgery than go to the damn Orlando airport.
Orlando's.
Yes. Oh my god.
That's the mousetrap.
That is.
It's the mousetrap.
It's
And
the
there's people
mousetrap.
standing there with damn Mickey Mouse ears on.
Yeah.
Like passengers. I'm like, dude, you got damn Mickey
I
Mouse
had
ears
one
on
of
right
our
now.
one of our producers had a flight delayed and she had to spend the night in Orlando airport, and I was like, if there was an airport I was going to spend the night in, that would probably be the last one I would pick.
Yeah.
And then you got to walk
But here's the thing:
to the tram.
when you finally get home, you're going to be sick.
Yeah.
Because all the kids there.
Yeah,
Correct.
Like it's like walking into a daycare and just rolling around on the ground.
100%.
Oh, it's just not the kids. It's everything combined.
Dude, when I see you and you're a grown ass 55-year-old man with Mickey Mouse ears on at the airport, I'm like, dude, you or the whole family has on Mickey Mouse t-shirts. You know what I'm
With
talking
the
about?
names,
Well,
yeah.
are you talking about the adults for?
Oh, I don't know what they are because
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
ever talk to them. But like there'll be 5 or 6 of them standing at the gate with Mickey Mouse ears on. But then there'll be a whole family that'll have like Mickey Mouse Disney shirts on. The same one.
Can I tell your version of the story of when you and Kim tried to go look at Cinderella's castle?
Oh my gosh, that was the.
I'm gonna tell the version he told me, because the way you said it was funny, and you probably don't remember how you said it.
Go ahead.
But him and Kim are trying to go see Cinderella's castle.
We're in Orlando.
They
She's
didn't-
never
okay.
been to Disney World.
They
I wasn't
didn't-
gonna pay to go to Disney
They
World.
didn't realize he didn't realize you had to have a ticket to see the castle.
Oh,
He thought,
And she said, and I don't mean to interrupt
which
you.
if you've never been, mate, I could see how you would assume
She
that.
said, well, I don't really want to go to Disney World. I just want to see Cinderella's castle. Now, a kid from Hamilton, Alabama thinks, well, that's a pretty reasonable
Yeah.
thing is a picture of Cinderella's castle. We can just go do that, and then we don't have to pay the $200, whatever it is, to get into this
lot.
damn Mickey Mouse place, right? So go ahead.
So Scott tells me they pull up at the little gate, like, they have the thing over and they have the guard there.
Oh, there's
And
rows.
and
It's like a Buc-ee's. It's-
And the guard is, you just compared Disney World to Buc-ee's. That's hilarious. The guard is like, no, you have to have a ticket to get in, And this is you telling me this.
Mm.
Scott said he looked at the guy and he said, well, do you want to let me go through so I can turn around, or you want to make all these people back up? Because it was like lined up behind him. You remember that?
That's 1,000,000,000% what I said. And he goes, well, now you got to remember the guy, because it says it's the old school Disney riding, but there's like, because this is the entrance to Disney World, there's like 20 stalls. It's
Yeah.
like a huge,
Everybody's been to Disney knows exactly what you're talking about.
yeah.
where they herd everyone through.
Correct.
It's a
That's
cattle call.
that. Yeah, it's that place. And this kid's like 20 years old. Like he might be in college, but he might be in high school. And he goes, well, I can't let you back up. But I'm not going to make you pay anything, because when I let you go through here, if you'll stay in the far left lane, it'll take you back to the interstate. If you get in the right lane, you go into the parking for Disney where you actually park.
They would have shot you if you'd have went that way.
So I got enough to open the gate. Then I guess we're just going to go back to the interstate. So we literally drove, because I guess they've set it up where you can't see anything until you get in the park.
Well,
Why you
Magic
couldn't see-
Kingdom is separated by that lake, so even when you're at the parking lot, you can't see it.
Really?
Even if
That's
you'd
what
have
he said.
yeah.
Because that's what I wanted him. I said, hey, man, could you let me through here and I'll pay you whatever to park, which was probably going to be $100 or whatever they charge. And then let us just go to the parking lot so I can let her like stand up on my vehicle, because I had a rental car. I didn't care if the thing got dented. I always buy the full coverage, so if I wreck it, it ain't no big deal. I was going to let her stand up because I figured like if you stood up on top of the hood or the roof of the car, maybe you could see the Cinderella's castle. You could just snap a picture. And he's like, no, man, when you get to the parking lot, you still can't see the Cinderella's castle. And I said, that's when I said, well, do you want me to back up, or how are we going to
To
do
me,
this?
that's just a funny thing to say.
Because I didn't know
Yeah.
there was a left-hand lane that would just take you back to the interstate. I didn't know that. I thought, hell, I was about to have to put that damn rental car in reverse and him have everybody behind me backing up to let me get out of that thing.
Yeah.
That was my...
Anyway, this is going off the rails.
Sorry.
That was my fault. It was
Sorry,
my
sorry,
fault.
sorry.
No, it was my fault.
Guys, we got an all-star guest on today, and as I always like to say, I absolutely love two things in my life. There's not two things. These two things I love more than my only son, Wyatt. Having an in-person guest, checking the box there, having an all-star stud as an agency owner on this podcast, and I just hit the trifecta right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give him the introduction he's always deserved. He is originally from Ocala, Florida, and currently resides in Ocala, Florida. He is married to the beautiful Jen, and they have two ruggedly handsome sons. The first is here with us live today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Colin. How are you doing, Colin Carey?
Hi.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
Proud to have you here today.
Listeners
son.
can't hear that. He said he's
That's
doing okay.
He said he's doing great. And he's also got an 8-year-old
He brought his
son
dad
named
with him.
Grant. He brought his dad with him. He is a graduate of FSU, Housing and Residential Science. We'll talk about that a little bit today. And listen to this list of accomplishments, ladies and gentlemen. 2008, he was an independent producer. 2010, started an agency. 2015, approved as an auto owner's buyer. That's a big deal, by the way. I'm going through that right now. 2020, purchased, and I believe that's agency, auto owners agency. Is that correct?
Yeah, book of business there to get the ball rolling.
And since that time, he is the president and CEO of Carey Insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce to you an in-person live guest to the Insurance Guys podcast, Mr. Mike Carey. How are you, Mike?
Wonderful. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you and Colin so much for being here. Colin, you should be very proud of your daddy and his accomplishments in life. He's done a lot. When you leave here, I want you to just do me a favor. When you get in the car, don't say much, but then look at him and say, Dad, I'm proud of you. I love you. And let me tell you something. As a daddy who's got a senior in high school, big boy, bigger than me, baseball scholarship, that would mean more to him than anything you could ever give him. Okay? Guys, what are y'all doing in Mobile, Alabama today?
Here to see you. I mean,
love it.
Between seeing you guys and seeing the SS United States, it's going to be a jam-packed day.
Let's get into that for just a second. So Bradley was gracious enough yesterday with all the mean-ass kids he has at home, little obedient kids. You know how that is. It's awful. It's terrible. He was gracious enough to pick me up at the airport after my terrible, awful, worst experience of my life, and I've been through Marine Corps recruit training. American Airlines, you are the worst airlines in the world, bar none. He was gracious enough to pick me up, and we were coming through, and he was talking about this USS, what do you say, American?
United States?
Yeah. And I saw it. It looked like the Titanic.
I think it's the same size as the Titanic was.
And I thought he was talking about the USS Alabama, which I've been to 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
That everybody in Alabama's been to that damn thing. But what is the deal with this thing? Like, who bought it? What's it here for?
So it was up in the Northeast. And
Okay.
to my understanding, whatever port it was at, a part of them leasing the port
Sure.
space, over time, this happens in life, you run out of money. And the county, I believe Walton County, which is Destin,
Okay.
they had been taxing they have a tourism tax, and they used that money to buy the ship, have it towed down here
Sure.
with the tug, and then it went around Florida, and then as it was going around Florida, it's coming here to Mobile for 6 months. They're going to take all the wiring out of it, get all the fuel, anything that would harm the environment, and then they're going to sink it 20 miles offshore in about 180 feet of water there off Destin. And that's going to be in about 6 months.
And that's going to be a big reef for.
That'll be the world's
Fish.
largest artificial reef.
I'll be dead gum.
Yeah.
And what was that ship? Because I'm telling y'all, I wish we had a video of it right now. Maybe Johnny can put one in here to show on YouTube. But might be the biggest ship I've ever seen. That thing is huge. So what was it originally? Was it supposed to be like a cruise?
It was an ocean. So it was an ocean cruise liner. And it was built in the early 1950s.
Okay.
And the time, now things have changed, but that its design, it made the fastest transatlantic.
I'll be dang.
The route. So it had its heyday.
Yeah.
And then
No
it
doubt.
sat just like,
Wow. That is
It's
amazing.
pretty big. It's
And
pretty
you can
big.
go
Yeah.
down and go like
I don't
get
know.
on it, or
I don't
You
know.
can't
I
get
don't-
on it.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we can't get on it for safety
Yeah.
reasons. But yeah, I wanted to see it, and I missed it as it was coming down through Florida because Florida on that East Coast, it wasn't too far offshore,
Right.
and I missed it. And then of course when it was coming around Key West and then headed to Mobile to get in the deep water, it was too far out to run
Right.
out and see.
I'll be done.
Mike texted me and said he was taking they were going to be at the beach and they wanted to take his son to see the ship. And I was like, well, what days? And he said 17th and 18th. And I said, Scott and I are podcasting.
Yeah,
come
come
on down.
Come on, man.
So you've been on the list for a while, so it just kind of worked out. you know?
Absolutely. So,
And anybody listening to this that wants to be on the podcast, if you will come here,
oh yeah, you're
as long
you're
as
in.
you don't have something to sell,
Right.
we will have a conversation.
Absolutely.
I thought
So-
we were talking about the extended warranty.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. Mike's new extended warranty program.
That's hilarious. Wait a minute, I do have something to say.
Yeah. Well, we've had folks before, Mike, that
Oh,
come on under one
Yeah.
pretense, and then they get on and they start.
Yeah.
And we just edit it out.
yeah, yeah.
Colin,
like-
you have the Cutcos ready?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, look. I bought a Cutco knife. Look,
You're gonna kill me.
I
Stop.
bought a Cutco knife. A friend of mine's son just graduated high school, started selling Cutco knives.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, would you sit in on a pitch? And I'm like, well, yeah, I want to hire him.
Yeah.
Like, let me let Cutco train him. And then, so I sit in on the pitch, and the kid's stepdad, like, made fun of him and told him that, sales isn't a real job, et cetera. And listen, if you're a stepdad out there that's going to tell a kid that sales is a real job, you're a failure as a human being.
No doubt,
We
man.
just say that. I think we would all agree with
But
that,
this
right?
is the kid. The stepdad wasn't on the call. This was
No.
the kid telling
The
story.
real dad has set it up, and then the stepdad was like mean to him and told him sales isn't a real job, whatever. So I sat in the pitch, and I bought a knife, and it is the best knife I've ever purchased. I
heard
bought
that.
one knife. I didn't buy the set. It is the best knife I've ever purchased in my
I've
entire life,
heard that from
and I
multiple
use it
sources.
every single night to cut up pre-frozen chicken tendies for Luke,
I thought you were going to say he cut up oatmeal.
or that too. Yeah.
So Mike, before we get into why we wanted you on this podcast, get in my DeLorean for just a minute. I want you to go back in time to 2008 and kind of bring and just elevator speech on what happened, how you stumbled into the insurance industry. Maybe it was selling Cutcos. I don't know. But go back to 2008. Now, that's, for me, when I think 2008, I'm like, oh, that wasn't that long ago. But then you start adding that up. That's pretty good. That's a pretty hot minute ago. That's the same year I got in.
Yeah.
So go back to 2008, how you got into industry, and then just kind of bring us up to today.
Yeah, thank you. I graduated Florida State in 2007, and then as everyone can remember, that '08 economy was not as robust as it had been the prior 5-6 years.
That's when it was
Yeah.
going downhill.
So, I graduated and I wanted to ultimately get into development, work with a commercial developer,
Right.
and naturally land and development that wasn't happening with the crash. So, a friend of mine that had worked for me at the restaurant I ran in Tallahassee, he said, "Hey, there's an agent I know that wants to hire someone. You just need a college degree, and he'll start you off at $30,000 salary and health insurance." And I was engaged at the time to marry Jennifer, and I said, "Well, 30,000 sounds pretty good if I can get in and learn insurance." So got it going, and then about a year and a half after working for that agency, and went to a second agency from him. The first one didn't work out right away, and made the switch. And once I learned the mechanism, the machine that we all know as an independent agency,
Right.
I just did the math in my head of how much I'd have to write for somebody else versus building my own.
Right.
And was just fortunate enough to get out and get it going.
Now was your initial, because we hire a lot of younger folks here, and my biggest struggle is convincing them that insurance is cool. what was your initial reaction with that first? Were you like, this is these are like the most boring people I've ever met, or like what
So-
did it take some
so
time
you're-
before you fell in love with it?
So
know?
you're talking. So my mom and stepdad are now both retired CPAs. So if you were to take, do you want to do
Anything was
insurance,
better.
or do you want to go and be a CPA?
Right.
And I've got to give a shout out to my stepdad because he said at his graduation party, someone said, well, you know, what is housing and residential science? And he popped in. He says, well, basket weaving was all taken up by the Florida State football players. so he had to go a different route. But I looked at being a CPA and sitting at a desk, and I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I've always enjoyed sales in general. And if you look at the concept and product of insurance, if you do it right, it truly does help people.
Yeah.
So, you know, to me, it
Well, and
was
I
a
think
win-win.
about the sector of the business, P&C, right? So one of my favorite things to do, did you guys go up to the rooftop while you were away?
We did, yeah.
Okay. I like to take, especially people that aren't in insurance and they're in sales, right? Because so much of the sexy sales is like car sales, real estate, Cutco. It's the stuff that, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money up front, but you're just churning, right? It's like you're only as good as your last sale, whereas that's not necessarily true in insurance, right? Because of the residual income. And so the way that I visually show that to new hires is I take them up to the roof and I say, every single building you can see as far as the eye can see is insured. Every single car you can see is insured. Every single boat you can see is insured, right? Literally every single person that you are talking to, that you come into contact with today, unless they're homeless, is going to buy insurance this year.
So-
Now, it may be renewing their insurance. And so what you can do is, like, if you have an income goal or a purchase goal or something, you can back into, okay, I have to talk to this many people. I have to, and then it becomes residual at that point. And so you're making that money every single year. And it sort of opens their eyes to, like, wait a minute, yeah, this might be a pretty boring product on the onset, but as long as I know how to deliver the pitch or the ask to every single person I come in contact with, I have a legitimate shot at getting it.
Hey, Colin.
Yeah.
If I could take you up to the top of that roof myself, you know what I'd say to you?
What?
If your mom and daddy have told you your whole life not to talk to strangers,
Yeah.
that's wrong. You know why? Do you want to be a millionaire one day?
Yeah.
All you have to do is get 1 million people to give you $1. That's all you have to do. 1 million people will give you $1.
Well, going to what you were saying, Bradley, I've told both of the boys and even my staff is it's that same theory. Every building, every person, mine in my head, it's a lime green money bag, and you don't know, what's in that money bag, but there is a number.
Yep.
And whether it's this building that's probably built in the 60s,
Yep.
maybe early 70s, it's got a number to it. Yeah, the liability on the SS United States right now, that policy has a number to it.
That's right.
So you go through and you meet people, and the best thing you can do is realize and see what that number is and look at what your probability and odds are having the opportunity to be that person's agent and be able to figure it out really quick.
Yeah, that's right.
So you don't want to waste time on the numbers that you might not get.
So what made you, Mike, wake up one morning and go, I want to do this myself. I want to be the guy. I don't want to just be a producer. I want to be the guy. Now, at that time, you probably were like me and you didn't realize all the stuff that comes in, to being the guy.
Yeah.
But what made you want to do that? Was it just what you said earlier about, hey, why am I doing this for him when I could do it myself and I'd be making a lot more? Is that kind of what it was?
It came
just
down
numbers
to
game.
The numbers, the uncertainty of working for somebody else, and them being able to dictate, what might happen in 5-10 years. The last agent I worked with was a great guy, but his perpetuation plan that he had set was someone else coming in and buying out his agency. And when I was talking with him, he wanted me to sign a non-compete and a non-piracy.
Right.
And I told him, I said, look, I'll sign a non-piracy, but I don't want to sign a non-compete, being that you already have someone lined up, and if it doesn't work out, I don't want to be held back of being able to go and work and do. And he said, well, if you don't sign it by Wednesday
You're
at
gone.
noon, you're gone. So I was at Harry's Seafood in downtown Ocala, and it was just Jen and I. And of course, we were enjoying it because we didn't have any kids yet. And we were going through the pros and cons, and I said, I just don't think that's going to be the spot. So after
Kudos to you for realizing that.
finishing everything out,
Because if you'd have signed that,
yeah, you're
screwed.
You're exactly.
Yeah.
So I cleared out the office that night, went to him that next morning when I knew he was going to, be
Right.
there. Gave him my key, shook his hand, and said, "Hey, thank you, but I'm going to, go another direction." I had actually interviewed with other agencies before starting
Right.
the agency. I wanted to leave. I had a couple doors. I was offered. And Bradley, I know your wife's a State Farm agent, so you understand the program. But a good friend of mine was a State Farm agent a town away, and he interviewed me and wanted to bring me into their young agent program. Or
yeah, that's
whatever.
their big recruiting tool. Is that.
But at the time, State Farm wasn't writing property insurance in Florida.
Right.
And I said, well, I'll probably do well. And then they're going to say, Mike, you're going to go to South Dakota or somewhere.
Right.
And I'm not a South Dakota guy. So
Yeah.
I said, hey, I'll stay in Florida.
We got an
and do my
agency in Wichita, Kansas. You can go.
thing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you're going to
Right.
be the guy.
I'm a Florida guy,
Yeah,
dude. I
there's-
mean, that's
there's
just
there's
not
two
working for me.
stoplights. It's really up and coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so
that's kind of silly on that first agency owner's part because it's really the piracy that protects him. Like,
right.
what's like that? And that's my attitude towards people. Like, we do non-piracy, non-solicit.
Yeah.
If you want to go work somewhere else, I don't care.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
I'm not in
You know
the
what?
I'm not in the dream killing business, right? If you think you would be better suited somewhere else, get after it. Just don't screw me over in the process. We're good.
You know, Bradley,
In fact, let me know what accounts you want to take. I'll hand them to you on a silver platter.
yeah, I've got a list.
Yeah.
You know what, Bradley? You bring up a good point.
Give that to her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here. Hey, what's up? Good to see you. I think I'm gonna take out the non-compete in my employment agreement because you're 1,000. I don't care if you go to work somewhere else. Just don't take all my stuff.
Yeah.
The only caveat that I would not do that is in the event of an acquisition.
Well, oh yeah.
You're buying
Oh,
another
yeah,
age,
of course,
you need
of
it, you
course.
know.
Yeah, right. Because that's
which that actually
I've seen that a million times where they'll go, oh, here, buy my agency. I'm retiring, and then 2 weeks later they've got a
Yeah.
sign up in the town 3 miles away that they're an independent
I've had
agent.
that happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the non-piracy still helps you in that case. But what you don't want is, when you buy an agency, one of the benefits that people don't really talk about is you inherit all the lead flow that agency was
That's
getting.
right.
Well, if the seller signs a non-piracy, okay, I'm not going to take these customers that you just bought,
Sure.
but then they go open up down the street, all of a sudden that lead flow can be redirected.
Absolutely.
Possibly. But, the new law with the non-compete thing,
Yeah.
it did not include in the event of an acquisition. Like that is actually still protected.
Right.
So anyway,
So here we are. We've quadrupled the book, and we're in the sweet spot right now. Right, we're in the salad years, if you will. Yeah. How'd you do it? What'd you do? Hire great people. I know that.
Hired great people. I kept good notes. So, all the years that I would have conversations with potential clients and I knew I didn't have the products to compete, I would shake their hand and say that the best thing that they can do is stay where they're at. And if it's a policy that could never be touched, I'd say pay the damn thing 3 years in advance if you can.
Yeah.
And keep it going. And
we're still doing that today with a hard market.
Oh yeah,
it
just give them sound advice, but also let them know when the day and time comes that I say I'm going to be your agent. Just be ready to jump on board, and that's been.
I did that last week with my mother-in-law and father-in-law. State Farm's gone up on our insurance. We quoted it as an independent with our 5 or 6 best carriers, and I called him and I said, "Hey, you had a claim on a trailer that got stolen a couple years ago, and you need to stay where you're at."
do you really want to insure the in-laws that live next door to you?
Them, yeah, because my father-in-law is a real rational, reasonable person. He's not a wild man. I think it would be fine. Like,
What about if the father-in-law wasn't in the picture?
no comment.
That was a rhetorical question.
No comment. This is on YouTube, and they have YouTube.
Oh, no.
television, so.
Hopefully your in-laws aren't listening to this podcast.
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't. Don't want to get into that.
yeah.
So here's why we wanted you to be on the show today. And our mission on this podcast is to help insurance agents any way we can. Mike, I realize, Bradley realizes, we are probably not talking to the 27-year-old independent agency owner that started his agency a year or two ago, right? But for the guys our age, you know, getting it, been in it for 5 or 10 years and built up a pretty healthy book of business, and they're starting to see that operating account and it's growing and they're making good money, and maybe they've got some money that they could invest outside of insurance relative to, say, I don't know, real estate maybe, or could be something else. What advice, because I know you have more than one rental property yourself outside of insurance, but what advice would you give that agent that maybe's hit that sweet spot now, and man, we're making some good money and I need to start investing maybe in some other things and diversifying outside of insurance? What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to get with a local bank. If you've got a local bank in town, and work with them, because a lot of your lending, if you can have, you know, that in-house town banker,
Right.
Those are really going to be the ones that might understand what you're doing. It's so easy for people to see the success of others, or God forbid they'll take advice from someone online
Right.
that has 1,000 properties, and they said, well, I can never do that. I can't get to that mark. But starting small and saying, you know, I've got, you know, 20,000 sitting here, but that's enough to go and get a property.
Sure.
That if I get in, and then from there, I'd always just use the number. If you can get 1% in rent per month of your purchase price. So if it's
As net or gross?
as the gross rent. So if you're buying, you know, the property for $100,000 and you can rent it for $1,000, do it.
Got it. That's an easy calculation.
That's an
isn't
easy.
it?
I love easy numbers.
Me too. Me too.
They're
So,
no calculator needed.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm asking this, guys. Scott's going to be selfish for just a second. You're pretty swift on the old investment property thing. You know, you went to school for some of that. You've got experience in that. You know, I hear people that talk about if you've got the money or you can borrow the money to get into the investment properties. You know, some people will say, do not start by investing in a single family rental. You know, do a duplex, do a fourplex, do a small 12-unit apartment complex. Would you say that's accurate, or would you say if you can afford to do the 1% of $100,000 on a rental property that's a single family, one family home, which way would you go there?
I'd go to what you can afford and what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
If you've got a 12-unit complex, but because of the cost of the acquisition, and then if you're borrowing the money, if your rate's higher, and you're looking at it and you're saying, well, with 100% occupancy, we're really not going to get the return on this like we like, then I'd say whatever property makes the most sense is the one that you should go with. I've got a piece of land now that I'm going to try to work to build duplexes on, and you know, like I told y'all, you know, before today, is just to build it and you know, over time pay it all off, and get the mailbox money.
Yeah.
Just in case the insurance scheme doesn't work out.
Well, I mentioned before Mike got on the air here that, you know, my wife and I had our first residential rental property last year, and you know, the rent on it's $1,800 a month, which is actually less than market rent in that area. The note is $600 and some change per month, because we bought it a long time ago. And I told my buddy that's a real estate.
Y'all got a lot of equity in that house, because that was the house.
That was our house.
For those of you that don't know, that's the house that Bradley and his wife lived in for what, 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
That they've been paying the mortgage on for that long. And then when they built their new house, most people sell their old house. Instead, because of the area that he lives in, which is a very highly sought after area down here because of the school system, they made the decision to just turn that into a rental property.
Yeah.
Some bitch nearly burned down about 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
The neighbors.
Neighbors burned their house down.
Actually, the same guy. So I told a realtor buddy of mine when we first rented it. I said, "Man, we're clearing $1,200 a month on this house. Like, if I could get 10 of these, 20 of these, I might stop selling insurance."
Right.
Which is obviously a joke, but yeah, that same guy called me 2 weeks ago, Mike, and he said, "Hey, is your house on fire?"
He sent me a picture,
And
buddy.
I said,
it looked like it was fully engulfed.
I hope that one's with State Farm.
I said,
Yeah, probably. It would be Laurel.
I said, I'm standing in it, so I don't think it's on fire. He's like, "No, your rental house." And I said, "Oh, blank."
Yeah, Brad
and
sent me a
I
picture.
jumped in my car, and it's 0.7 miles from my current house.
Yeah.
It's not very far. And I'm driving there, and of course, insurance guy, what am I thinking? How much dwelling coverage do we have on this house?
Right.
And so I
And
pulled.
you can probably see the smoke.
I could see the smoke. I pulled into the street, and our house is probably 300 yards from the street, from the main street. And I pulled in, and I couldn't even see the first houses. The smoke was so thick. And a policeman walked up, and he was like, "What number's your house?" And I told
Is
him.
that how he said it?
Yeah. I told
What
him, I
number's your
said, I said, "It's this one." He said, "No, you're good. It's this one." And it was my next door neighbor.
Oh, wow.
Did it damage your house at all?
Nope.
Was it
Fun
older home?
Yeah. Fun fact. So the tenant is moving out. Actually, I think he moved out this week because his lease was up, and he bought a house. And the lady whose house burned down is going to rent it while they're building hers back.
Oh, wonderful.
So it kind of,
Yeah.
it's like a God thing, like the
Yeah.
timing of it, you know. But
Oh,
yeah,
so the
like
lady whose house burned down is renting your house?
yeah,
You're going to let somebody who's just burned her house down rent
I
your
am.
house?
Yeah, I am.
Goodness gracious.
Insurance company's paying for it, you know,
Yeah.
loss of use.
Oh, true.
Neither myself nor my wife insured it.
I was just
So-
about to ask if Laurel had it insured.
Yeah, but yeah, but real estate's been something that we've done to diversify outside of insurance, and we actually also just went under contract on a house at the beach, not far from where you're
Boy, we
staying.
didn't
Actually,
tell the old podcast co-host about that.
Boy,
did we?
it took me coming to town.
Unbelievable.
What area of
do
What's
you
that
know?
address? I want to write that down. Make sure I got.
Do
I'll
you
need
know-
2 weeks on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually one of the things we thought about is like, you know, we want to do something at the beach.
I'll bring the boat.
for when
Perfect.
Scott comes down. You know, do you know where Sea and Suds is?
I know exactly where Sea and Suds is.
It's in Gulf Shores.
Okay.
It's
If I close
directly.
my eyes, I can be there.
It's down by the Hangout. It's directly
Yeah.
across the street from Sea and Suds.
Abby dang. What's the name of the is it a complex or is it a house?
It is a complex. It is a complex with houses in it. It's one
Gotcha,
of those.
gotcha,
I don't
gotcha,
know.
gotcha.
I don't know the name of the complex. It's actually new. Funny story. So my wife. So we've been looking for something at the beach, and so the reason, and I'm just going to tell this to listeners, is super informative. So our CPA actually told us, they were like, "Hey, you know, there's this thing called cost segregation study, where you can basically take depreciation on all of the facets of the house in advance. The first
What do you
year
mean
that you
by
buy
facets of the house?
So like the roof, the flooring, everything that's going to depreciate, right?
Got you.
And so you basically pay this company, you get a cost segregation study done. They're going to say, hey, these different things of this house are going to depreciate X amount over 30 years. You get to claim basically all of that in the first year. By the way, this is not tax advice. This is
Yeah.
an idiot
Please.
relaying what his CPA told
What
him.
is it? What's the
And-
disclaimer they say?
yeah.
Please
I'm
see
not an
your
attorney.
tax. Yeah.
So
Professional for advice or something.
there, in order to get this, you have to be a full-time real estate investor, which is 15 hours per week, unless it is an Airbnb. If it's an Airbnb, you don't have to be a full-time real estate investor. And I guess the logic is you're going to be spending a lot of time on that Airbnb. So basically, if you buy, and he told us this, if you buy something that's more than $500,000 in purchase price, it's going to save you between $60,000 and $80,000 on your taxes, like off the top.
Oh, wow.
I'll be dang.
And so our logic on the Airbnb at the beach is okay, we buy this house at the beach, we save, $70,000 on taxes, we rent it out, the rent breaks even, and we
So
have a place to
you're
stay.
You're going to be an Airbnb
Well,
owner. You
Joe-
hate Airbnbs.
I do. I hate Airbnbs.
But you're about
don't mind
to own
owning
an
one.
Airbnb.
I don't mind owning one. But I'll tell you the funny story. So, and I'm sure you've had some like precarious situations looking at real estate, right? So my wife and I, we've been looking for something for 6 months. We went under contract on one that we really fell in love with. We ended up backing out of that for some other reasons. But so what we'll do is whichever one of us is available that day that we're going to be looking at property, I'll stay at the office. She'll go down there. She'll FaceTime me or vice versa. There's no need for both of us to go, right? So my wife goes down there when she found this one, and they're looking at the property next door, right? And the realtor tells her, she says, hey, there's a new complex being built next door, and there's a model home. Before we go to lunch, let's hop in there and go look at that. So like, okay. So they go in there, they punch the code in on the model home, they walk in there, and they're looking at it, right?
Oh, no.
And they're like, there's people's stuff in here.
Oh, no.
And which my wife's best friend managed an apartment complex in Nashville, and they had a model unit, and they would like let their friends stay there. Like it's not uncommon that you have a contractor or somebody staying in the model unit. You know, there was some stuff like, oh, I got a big deal. So they're walking through the house, looking at it, and they leave. They go to lunch. The realtor calls the listing agent and says, hey, we just looked at this. I got the code to the model unit off of the thing. We really like it. And the realtor says, what model unit? She's like, the model unit listed on MLS. And she's like, we sold that 6 months ago. They were walking in someone's house while they were at work. And I'm like, you are lucky you did not get shot or arrested.
No.
Yeah.
But the code still works.
The code still works. So that's on the realtor for leaving that, or the owner, you know, for leaving that code on there. Anyway.
So let me ask you and Mike something, because you both are pretty damn savvy guys when it comes to this stuff. Outside of real estate, you're an agency owner, you want to diversify. What are some other businesses that you would take a hard look at that are not real estate oriented that somebody as busy as an agency owner could get into and do well in that's, not real estate? And people talk about service businesses a lot, like,
Service business is tough because the name is a service business.
Correct.
You've got to have,
You
You
gotta
gotta
have a skill
get
set.
somebody good run it or something.
I had looked at for years. I even have the name picked out. I was gonna buy a cremation business,
Okay.
and
It's not the direction I thought that was going.
Yeah.
no, no one ever thinks it, but it was, and I still might do it.
I wonder if that's bigger in Florida, though. I don't think cremation's really big in Alabama.
But it's going to be bigger and bigger. People are running out of land
space,
to do, and you got more people that are going to
That's
be
true.
dying. But I was going to have my uncle, who's retired funeral home director from Pennsylvania, run it. And as we were talking and kind of the initial stages of it all, he died. And I said, well shoot, there goes our plan. So
And the thing about the cremation business, too, is I'm pretty sure you could bring in business from other funeral homes that don't do a lot of cremation.
yeah.
I've heard of like funeral, because I remember the few funeral homes I've written, one of the questions on the application was like, do they basically sub out their cremation?
Yeah.
Because I guess some funeral homes don't do cremation, but
Yeah.
anyway.
So that one went to the wayside.
Your slogan going to be where every goodbye is a warm send off.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Storage facilities.
Yeah.
I see
Yes,
those picking up.
he's
I've
brought
got
that up, storage units.
A good
The
friend of mine has
That's-
a car wash.
But the
Yeah.
problem with storage units is these big conglomerates now are going in and buying the mom and pops, and you can't compete with
Yeah.
this global storage unit business that's willing to pay, half more than what you're willing to pay.
We've been looking for storage units for a long time and have even debated building one. And there was one that went on the market down the street from where I live. And I get like LoopNet notifications.
Sure.
Anytime any commercial real estate's listed in Mobile County, I get notified immediately. And literally in the time it took me to get to my computer to inquire about it, it went under contract.
I'll be dang.
Yeah, it happens so
Locally, or do you know?
Yeah, it was somebody local, but
Okay.
we had a friend who owns apartment complexes, which has always been something I've wanted to do. And he also then he got into the storage unit business. He's like, dude, the storage unit business is way better because when somebody moves out of apartment, you have to repaint, sometimes retile, recarpet. Somebody moves out of storage unit, you just take your water hose and spray it out.
Yeah.
He's like, and yeah, your turnover's more. He's like, and I'll take the extra turnover to not have to repaint, recarpet every single time. You know, what I always tell people, Scott, if you're looking at there needs to be the reason you're doing another business than your main thing needs to be so that you can diversify. Where I think people get lost is they get ADD, and it's like they get bored with this thing, and so they go do this thing. And I've been guilty of that a little bit.
And then it takes up so much of your time.
Correct.
Now your eyes off the ball of your insurance agency.
And what we're talking about is more or less like, hey, what's something that I can put some money in and not really have it take a ton of my time, that's why real estate is so great for that. You know, I always tell people your first, second business needs to be parallel to your first business.
Like hand in glove.
Yeah. So like what I say is same industry, different product, or same product, different industry.
Great
So
advice.
a great example of that is my first, second business was a marketing company that did content creation for insurance agents.
Right.
So it was the same industry, different product. My third.
No, your first was a podcast.
Well, yeah, that too. But that's a great example. And then what we did, my third business I created outside of this was I did a joint venture with a tech company that does onboarding for apartment complexes. So when you move into an apartment complex that they service, you do everything through their app. Sign your lease, sign up for your water, power, et cetera. We created a renter's insurance only agency that we do. So it was same product, different industry, so to speak.
Right.
And so I think your first couple need to be somewhat related to your main business. That way you can run them together, and you're not like doing a complete 180.
You don't want to get too far away from your water source.
Correct. Like I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
That's a good.
Like my
that,
first, second business would not be a crematory, but the fact that you've ran other businesses and you probably have the agency at this point where it's running like a top. Okay, now I can put some effort here. But I love your strategy of like, let's find someone who has done that and let's make them an operating partner. I'm just the money guy,
right?
Or I'm the big picture guy. One idea that I had that was a horrible idea. But I still think think it would work if you really wanted it to work. So the community that I live in it's becoming a pretty affluent area. It's a good school system. A lot of people are moving there. There's only like 2 or 3 daycares in that area.
Cool.
Okay. There's a lot of people that work shift work. A lot of dads, single dads that work shift work. So one of those daycares in that area sent a letter home to their parents a couple years ago, and it said if you're late picking up your kids three times, you can get them at the police station. Like they're all really strict on the time that, and even my son's daycare, if we get, and this is daycare, right? He's 3. If we get there at 8:31, they turn us away. Daycare, right? So they're real strict on times. And so what I said is I wanted to create a daycare that was centered around working parents. You want to drop them off at 5 a.m. You want to pick them up at 7 p.m. You work shift work, like basically staff it so that we can be
accommodate.
Right, exactly. And also like there's not that many daycares in the area. The lists fill up real fast. It was all I could think about for about 3 weeks. And we had a nanny at the time that worked for us that was a former daycare manager. I was like, we'll just make her the manager. We'll give her 10% equity. You have ownership. Don't call me unless somebody gets hurt, right? Or we're bank account zero, right? Then I started doing the math on the student to teacher ratio in a daycare, and I was like, oh, that's why all these daycares hire horrible employees because they have to pay them $9 an hour to make any money.
Yeah.
And so we got out of that, but that would have been one that would have been too much of a 180. You know what I mean?
I can tell you an airline I think's doing the same thing. Anyway, Mike, I can't let you go. We got to get off the podcast pretty soon. I can't let you go without asking an important question for all these agents around the country and around the world listening to this. So we heard so much on this podcast and in other sources throughout the media for the last 2 years about the Florida insurance market and how, worst market in the world and carriers all pulled out and Citizens and, Demotech and all this other crazy stuff. Give our listeners, because you're in it every day, you're in ground zero down there. What's the Florida market like today, year of our Lord 2025, March? I know.
No, you're good. You're good.
What we're looking at down there right now? Is it starting to turn the other direction, or are we about where we were? Where are we at?
I think for Florida, it's getting better. Clearly rates have gone up. You've had a lot of companies that have become insolvent. Mm-hmm. The best thing I could tell anybody, so for the millions of people listening today, I say look at an insurance carrier, an insurance company, whether it's Progressive, whether it's State Farm, whether it's auto owners, and look at them like a casino in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And you've got to know that the casino that doesn't pay out isn't the casino you want to gamble at.
Right.
The carrier that you're paying, if your goal is for them to become insolvent because you don't want your insurance company to turn a profit, then it's not the right product for you, because for it to work properly, they have to have the correct amount of money to continue to grow and ultimately pay out on a claim to make someone whole. So unfortunately, what I've seen is this day and age of our society is they don't want to pay anything. They expect the caviar, lobster, and filet dinner,
sure,
but they really want to come in on
but
some
they want to pay what
prices.
they pay at McDonald's.
Exactly, and they're mad when it doesn't work out. So are there companies that turn a record profit and kind of have their hand out? There's always those stories, but as a whole, for the carriers, the reinsurance cost, everything that's gone into it, Florida really set the tone. A lot of the other parts of the country have seen rate increase, but the storms that have come through, majority of the claims, you get a ton of flood. The roof issues that hit the state, they've slowly helped to slow that down.
A lot of the litigation has helped with some of the roofing stuff.
Going back to it, if
not the litigation, but the
new
legislation,
the legislation that they've done. So you've got people getting a new. Well, my neighbor got a new roof. Well, your neighbor was paying $500 a year for their insurance. They had it for 5 years. They paid $2,500. An attorney and a roofer knock on their door, and they get a $30,000 roof. That insurance company isn't making money. So if you do that, and it happens thousands and thousands of times, then when you have the storms come through, that's when these companies start to shut down. That's when your market's just completely upside down. So they've fixed that. None of us are attorneys here, so we can say that the attorneys are the root of our problem. But as my good friend who's an attorney says, you need me to continue doing what you're doing too. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
We've got to have a good ecosystem.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, the big question mark for me, and we're basically North Florida here, very similar market. The big question for me is all of the new legislation is certainly helpful, like cutting out the AOBs and the what do they call it, where the attorneys are getting paid on both ends, et cetera, et cetera. The big question is, can the consumer and the politicians be patient enough? Because you can't make a change and then you immediately see it in your insurance overnight. No. It's a 3 to 5 year window before you really start to see that trickle down to the end consumer. Can people be patient enough to keep DeSantis in office, to keep things going the way they're going? I don't think they are, but we'll find out.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that, most state legislatures in most states in the United States are run and have the majority of their members are of what occupation? Lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the attorneys.
And so it bodes the fact of, I don't know how many politicians in Florida were benefiting from what was going on, but will there ever be a time after this law goes into effect where it kind of goes back to where it was, because somebody's not getting the big check that they were getting?
Well, look with the sinkhole claims that were happening back in 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
Suddenly they change it from a 1% deductible to a 10%
Yeah.
on coverage A, and you don't have any sinkhole claims.
Right.
I'm like, what happened to all those sinkholes? They're
Sure.
gone now.
Sure.
The earth is set.
Yeah, right. That's right.
But you slowly cut those people out, and you want affordability for Florida, Alabama, everywhere else. But there's going to be certain parts. The one I question is the flood insurance cost for a lot of people, because I think it was a number like 80+% with the storms that came up the West Coast didn't have flood insurance.
Happens every time. Houston, like Houston and Nashville, because Nashville, I don't remember how many years ago now, but probably 7 or 8 years ago, had that big flood. Nobody had flood insurance. Houston had one 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. Nobody had flood insurance. So I jokingly tell people that I've stopped joking about, oh, you don't need flood insurance here. I'm like, I don't know if you do or not, but it seems like, my point is, every area that seems like it gets hit with a big flood, the majority of people in that area do not have a flood insurance policy.
Yeah.
So unless they had to have it for a bank loan or something like that. Would you agree with it? Like Mobile. Mobile's a prime candidate for a big flood, I would think. Kind of low.
It's a low area.
I don't know how many people around here have flood insurance. No idea.
You have a hard time getting them to buy it if they're in an X.
But the best thing you can do is offer it to every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And whether it's a new client or existing.
We make
It's auditing the
everybody
entire
sign
book.
a flood disclosure,
Yep.
even if they're not in a flood zone, even
Yeah.
if they're in a flood zone X. Everybody signs a flood disclosure, and that does prompt some people to say, hey, wait a minute, like, especially when you have a national event like what happened in Asheville.
And that's when you can sell it, is when it's a national news media.
Yeah.
Because you can say, well, you see what just happened in Tampa. I mean,
Like your alien abduction insurance.
The floods in Asheville, North Carolina, that was absolutely insane.
another area that you would have never thought those people needed flood insurance. I guarantee you, probably less than 1% of all those people had a flood insurance policy.
Yeah.
Probably up there, I would think. Flood insurance is a tough product to sell. Most people, the old joke I always tell is, I never get wet on these rides right before you get on the ride at Six Flags and get soaking wet. It's flood insurance, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to flood here. What are you talking about? And then
the big thing is, if it floods here, we're all going to be
all
underwater.
gonna die. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
then the flood insurance is based on 1 in 100 years.
Sure.
And then what hit North Carolina, they were saying, well, this is a 1 in 200 year storm.
Right.
So after that, I'd probably, if I wasn't in insurance, I'd say, well, you guys are good for
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
bit.
Yeah.
You've got decent odds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You've got
exactly.
decent odds.
Appreciate you coming on.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you for having me. I was telling Colin on the way here, today marks a special day in Mobile history.
Oh, wow.
Did y'all know this?
No.
I don't know.
19 years ago today is when everyone saw, what they see, Colin?
Oh, the leper.
The leprechaun.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. As we were driving into, we were looking for the leprechaun because naturally we want the gold.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were joking about that.
That's awesome.
Him and
Did
his
you
brother.
see him that day?
No, I didn't.
You weren't.
What were you doing 19 years ago, Bradley?
I was 15 years old. So I was probably like MySpacing with some girl online or something, maybe.
He was in history class.
Yeah.
Up in.
Did you draw the amateur sketch?
I did not. I did not draw the amateur sketch. Have you ever seen the Daniel Tosh version of that?
It's great.
When he's breaking it down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He comes to Mobile and he ends up interviewing the guy that drew it.
Yeah.
But there's actually a local company here that has that amateur sketch trademarked.
Really?
So any company that sells a product or puts that logo, that amateur sketch anywhere, gets a nice letter in the mail that they need a rev share. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. My mother-in-law made those hats you boys are wearing, and I was gonna have her add a sketch and make
Yeah.
a hat or a shirt for the boys, but
Yeah, so Laurel did a sponsorship. There's a local movie theater here, and they do a sponsorship for koozies. So they sell beer, and so she sponsored the beer koozie. And a couple years ago in March, she put the leprechaun on there, and she had to give them like 25 cents of
I'll be
every.
dang.
Yeah,
Really?
They had to get their cut. It's like the mafia, and it's not. I think the people who have it trademarked don't even have anything to do with the person that drew it. They just
Yeah.
bought the trademark for it.
Hey, have y'all heard this one? I'm on the same line of thinking here. The movie Hangover, the second one that they did, was that the one they did in Asia?
The Mike Tyson tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they produce the movie, direct the movie Hangover. It hits movie theaters. And the dentist in the movie Hangover in the second one, I believe, gets the face tattoo like Mike Tyson. Well, little did they know, they never thought about this, but there was a tattoo artist that had trademarked that tattoo. And they ended up having to pay that guy like $1.5 million. Because they just didn't ask if they could use it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that,
Yeah.
whatever happened with your trademark thing? So Scott had another agency
I didn't send you
using the name I Protect Insurance.
Was walking door to door in Athens, Alabama, which is our big personal lines agency office. Been
You
there
sent me
for-
the letter that you sent them, but have you ever heard anything back?
Not a peep. Not a
Did they
peep.
stop using the name?
We hadn't had anybody call the office. This guy's walking around door to door, handing out I Protect Insurance or I Protect agency cards with his name and picture, Ryan Johnson. If anybody knows Ryan Johnson, he's from somewhere
Why
up in
don't we have him
Ohio.
on the podcast so we can talk about it?
Yeah, no
Let's get 'em
doubt.
on.
And we have a client of ours call and go, hey, called Harley, and he said, some guy just walked up to my door and knocked on my door wanting me to buy life insurance, said he's with I Protect. Well, I've got I Protect, trademark, patented, all this other stuff. So my attorneys, I had to spend $1,000 on a cease and desist letter
You
that
have a
went
trademark,
to
yeah.
Ryan Johnson somewhere up in Ohio.
They're still
who-
using the name.
Oh, yeah, I know. So
They posted today with the name.
there you go. Long as he's not walking around Athens handing out cards as I Protect agency or whatever he put on the card, I don't really care. I don't want to get into a protracted legal battle with somebody that's up in Ohio, but that was an odd situation.
We've had
Especially to be in
Athens,
Georgia.
Alabama.
or in
Yeah.
we had someone, one of these scammers, spoof our phone number recently and call someone trying to sell them Medicare using our name and spoofing our phone number.
Yeah.
But it only happened one time.
Same
And I
here.
was like, no, I'm not really that worried about it because it was obvious. The person obviously knew it was a scam, but yeah.
Yeah, you got to figure out whether the juice is worth the squeeze, to whether you want to take that, play it to the bone in court or not, because, you're racking up legal bills, fighting something maybe you don't have to fight.
There's a really famous Chevy dealer, and he has the name Chevy Dude trademarked. Mm-hmm. And this was so fun. He's so passive aggressive. Anytime he would see any car salesman online using the name Chevy Dude, he would just Facebook message him a picture of the trademark.
Yeah.
And that's all he would do. Just like, hey, you
Yeah.
can't use this. Here's my trademark. But yeah, we appreciate it, Mike. A lot of fun.
Guys, thank you for having me.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Hey, Colin, go have fun. Go have fun at the beach.
Yeah.
If you need expert shark fishing advice, let me know. I'll come down there and show you how to do it, what you need, and all that. But I'm an expert shark fisherman on the beach. I like to shark
Ask
fish.
him how
off the
many
beach.
sharks he's caught.
How many sharks have you caught?
0 so far. I'm 0 for 3. Boy, I fished hard, though. I tried. I worked hard at it. I just hadn't caught one yet. But, boy, believe me when I do, Colin, when I catch one, the very first person that's going to get a picture of it is sitting right here beside me. So, guys, as I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out into the big bad world. Become the mayor of your village. As I say all the time, here's what you need to do. When anybody sees you anywhere, at a funeral, at a restaurant, at a ball game, at a school event for your kids, you want them to walk up and say, hey, there's the insurance guy or girl right there. That's the insurance guy or girl. when they buy an investment property, you want them to think, man, I need to call Mike Carey. He does investments properties. I need to call him. That's what you want in the insurance business. Go make money for your family, for your wife, for your kids' college fund, for your parents and your in-laws that are struggling out there. Go make money for them. Write good business for the agencies that you represent, and write good business for the carriers that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Mike.
Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Guys, you were listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care.